Something is being built in you, not by you, by God. Something specific, something intentional, something that required the exact seasons you have been through, the exact tests, the exact stripping, the exact formation to become what it is becoming. And someone you know has been quietly taking it apart, not loudly, quietly, in the conversations that felt safe, in the relationship that felt like the most natural thing in your life. And by the time you finish this video, you will know exactly who and exactly how. You have noticed something, not something you can name yet, something you have felt, a specific reduction in who you are becoming, a specific gap between the version of yourself God has been building and the version that shows up in real life. You attributed it to the season, to spiritual warfare, to your own inconsistency. But what if the reduction has a source? Someone close enough to access what God is building before it finishes being built. Today, that changes. 4 warnings the Holy Spirit gives when someone you know has been quietly destroying what God is building in you. What you are about to receive will not feel like a warning about someone else. At some point in this video, it is going to feel like the moment everything finally makes sense. Stay through all 4, because the 4th warning reveals the specific access point you have been providing, and why closing it changes not just who is around you, but who you are becoming. Warning 1. The replacement. Every time God builds a new version of you, this person reaches for the old one, not out of malice, out of something far more dangerous, familiarity. Think about how this person describes you to others, what they reach for when they pray over you, what stories they tell, with genuine love, that keep the season God closed alive in your present. They are not describing the version God is currently building. They are describing the version that existed before He started. And every time that older version is spoken, the newer construction loses ground. In Nehemiah 4, Sanballat and Tobiah did not attack the builders physically. They attacked with words. What are these feeble Jews doing? Even what they build, a fox could break it down. They were not describing the wall being built. They were describing the wall they needed the builders to believe was being built. Because they understood one thing: change what the builder believes about the building, and the building changes. This person has been speaking a version of you that is smaller than what God is constructing, and the construction has been reflecting it. But the words are only the surface, because underneath them, this person has been doing something more targeted, arriving at the most critical moments of your spiritual development with a precision that is anything but accidental. The 2nd warning shows you exactly when they arrive, and why. Warning 2. The timing. God deposits something into your spirit, a direction, a calling, a specific word that arrives with weight and clarity, and then this person appears, not always physically, sometimes as a memory of their voice, sometimes as an actual conversation that happens in the exact window when what God deposited is still fresh and still vulnerable, and something they introduce, a concern, a reasonable caution, dissolves the deposit before it can take root. Notice the precision of it. They do not challenge your faith generally. They arrive at the specific moment the deposit is most exposed, the moment between receiving and establishing, when the word is in your spirit but not yet anchored, when the vision is real but not yet rooted. That specific window, every time. In Mark 4, Jesus described a seed that fell among thorns. The word was received. The ground was genuine, but thorns grew alongside the seed and choked it. The seed did not fail. Something entered alongside it at the wrong moment. This person has learned your deposit window, and they have been present in it consistently enough that what God sent at full weight has been leaving those conversations lighter than it arrived. Think about the last 3 things God deposited into your spirit. Think about who was present in the window between receiving and establishing, because the 3rd warning reveals what those repeated entrances have been doing to the internal capacity the building requires, and why the effect has been so gradual you never identified it as a pattern. Warning 3. The cost. Ask yourself one honest question. Why do you consistently leave interactions with this person doubting something God had already settled before you entered the conversation? Not sometimes. Consistently. You arrive carrying clarity. You leave carrying a question. You arrive knowing what God said. You leave wondering if you heard correctly. You arrive with the boldness the building requires. You leave with a caution that fits inside someone else's ceiling. That is not tiredness. That is not a difficult season. That is a pattern. And patterns have a source. In 2 Timothy 3, Paul described people who have a form of godliness but deny its power. He said they worm their way in and gain control. The word worm is the entire picture, not a violent entry, a gradual one, almost imperceptible, until the control is already established before anyone noticed the entry. This person has been worming their way into the specific internal environment where God is doing his most critical work, not through force, through the accumulated weight of conversations that each cost you a specific thing, your established boldness, your anchored identity in what God said, withdrawn so gradually that you never identified the withdrawal, only the deficit. And here is what the fourth warning reveals. The reason every withdrawal succeeded is because you kept opening the door. Not out of weakness, out of something that felt like wisdom. If this person has been forming in your mind through these warnings, type, "I see the building," in the comments. Not in anger, in clarity. The fourth warning is the most important. Stay. Warning 4. The blueprint. Every time God deposits something into your spirit about what he is building, you bring it to this person, not because you are careless, because their response has become the environment in which what God deposits feels most real. Their voice has become the second voice after God's, the one that tells you whether what you received was as real as it felt. And here is what happens every single time. The deposit that arrived from God, pure, specific, weighted with the full authority of what he is building, enters this person's atmosphere and returns shaped, not destroyed, shaped, filtered through everything they believe about you, who you have been, what you have tried, what has not worked, rather than through the lens of who God is currently building you to become. You receive it back and believe you have processed it. What you have actually done is handed the blueprint of what God is building to someone whose hands were never authorized to touch it. In Genesis 11, God looked at what was being built and said, "Nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them." He identified the specific condition that made the building unstoppable: unity of language. When everyone involved in the construction is speaking the same thing, the building cannot be stopped. But when a foreign language enters, when a voice not aligned with the blueprint begins handling the plans, the building stops. Not because the foundation was wrong, because the language of the construction was corrupted. This person has been introducing a foreign language into your building process. Through the ceiling their faith places on what you allow yourself to build. Through the unspoken limit of their belief about what is possible for you. Through the version of the vision that comes back to you after it passes through their hands. Already reduced to the size of what they believe, and you have been building inside that limit. Here is the line that will stay with you long after this video ends. What God deposits into you was sized for your assignment. What leaves your spirit and passes through this person's hands before it is established arrives back sized for their ceiling. Something is being built in you. God designed it. God sized it. God prepared every season you have been through to produce it. And it has been arriving smaller than he sent it, because the blueprint has been passing through the wrong hands. That stops here. What God sized for your assignment returns to the hands he designed it for, yours. Here's what you do. If you notice any of these warnings, the next time God deposits something into your spirit, sit with it for 72 hours before it enters this person's atmosphere. Let it root. Let it become unmovable in your own spirit first. Because what is established in you before it is spoken cannot be reduced by the atmosphere it enters afterward. And map the last 3 significant deposits God made. Ask honestly, what happened to each one in the window between receiving and establishing? Who was present? What the deposit looked like when it arrived, and what it looked like when it came back. Because a pattern you can see across 3 deposits is a pattern you can interrupt before the 4th one is handed to the wrong hands. Every warning in this video has a specific prayer strategy built around it, and a specific prayer for establishing what God is building at full weight before it enters any other atmosphere. Free guide in the description. Use it before you re-enter the space this video just named. The most quietly devastating part of what this video described is that it happened through love, through the relationship that felt like covering, but was functioning as a ceiling. You were not wrong to trust. Type, "I see the building" in the comments. Find the person beneath you who typed the same thing. Leave them one sentence, just the kind of words that remind another person that the reduction they have been experiencing was never the final design. Subscribe. Because what God is building in you deserves a space that holds the full weight of what he designed, not a space that reduces it to what someone else believes is possible. The blueprint is not corrupted. The building is not finished, and the version of you God is constructing is still everything He said it would be.